2016 Village Board of Trustees meeting to order. The agenda was, there's a quorum, and the agenda was properly posted. You can all rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll take nominations for Chairman Pro Tem for the January 4th, 2016 Village Board meeting.
I'll nominate Harvey.
A second.
There's been a nomination for Harvey Potter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? We have one for public appearances.
So it's public appearances, public's opportunity to speak about any subject that is not a specific agenda item. We have Nancy Allen of 2077 Uphoff Road in Cottage Grove would like to address the development at County Highway BB and County N. If you would come up to the table, just officially state your name for the record, and normally we do allow about 3 minutes. So.
I'll try. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nancy Allen. I live at 2077 Uphoff Road in Cottage Grove in the town. But I have lived here in Cottage Grove for over 30 years and consider myself a member of the community, regardless of public or of political delineation. I am here to speak this evening about the development at the intersection. I have been following it for a number of years and was actually quite excited when I read the initial plans and thought, yay. I grew up in Greendale, Wisconsin, a planned community, planned early in the 30s, built by the federal government. People started living there in 1938. And I am familiar with the concept of planned communities. I am concerned about what is going on here in Cottage Grove. I have a great deal of fondness for the community, but I am concerned about the fact that what I see is something kind of willy-nilly. When I saw the initial plans and an actual downtown, which seems to be a kind of a village center that had commercial and places to go and things to do, I thought, yay! Instead of strings of like far-set beads along some of the main arterials, but no downtown, no village center. You go to surrounding communities that have thriving commercial developments. They have a place to go. You park your car, you get out, you walk, you go to places, you have something to eat, you do things. It's neat. We have nothing like that. It's scattered. I would encourage you to give serious thought to sticking to the plan. I am very concerned about the fact that you've taken the sudden turn and are looking at a huge residential development with numerous buildings, many apartments, a huge amount of citizens living in a very small space, traffic, congestion. It sounds like rental properties to me, and the accompanying problems that you get with a huge concentration of rental properties. You are familiar with areas already in the village that kind of drift in that direction. I'm concerned that what you are looking at someday down the road is a nice slum in the middle of downtown instead of a thriving commercial district. When you have that many people and that small of a space, it's never been good. Look at the history of other developments of that ilk in other parts of this county. I am concerned about the impact on the schools. Already we are looking at a referendum to build a new school because of the increased student population in this community. The district is already struggling to pay for what we have, and you'll be looking at an additional, we're talking about another elementary school with a residential development of that size.
Nancy,
I don't,
if you could speed up just a
Okay,
little bit.
I'll try.
We are at 3 minutes. So.
I'm sorry. I'm surprised the school district isn't here making more noise about it, but I would hope that they will continue to do so. I'm concerned about the TIF, the fact that you're TIFing this. I think it is a misuse or / an abuse of the TIF legislation. This is intended, I spent 12 years in the Monona Grove School Board and dealt with lots of TIFs, both in Monona and Cottage Grove. And I think that oftentimes it's misused by developers. It's a welfare for developers. We're giving them a big break on taxes. Ultimately, if you're developing an area that would not have developed otherwise, which is the language of the legislation, then it's an appropriate use. When you're doing it someplace like at the interstate or here at an intersection of county highways where you've got a huge amount of traffic already, I don't see that as an appropriate TIF. And so you're putting all sorts of money into this and postponing the tax income. I also think that I'm seriously concerned about the fact that you are not focusing on the commercial development. One of the big conflicts between Monona and Cottage Grove in terms of the school district is the fact that Monona has this huge commercial base in their taxes. This is essentially a bedroom community. And to continue to just expand the number of bedrooms without focusing on expanding commercial and business development, broadening the tax base, taking some of the pressure off the residential taxpayers is an error in judgment. I know I'm over 3 minutes, but I appreciate the opportunity to get that off my chest. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Nancy.
Anybody have any questions?
We can't really discuss during comments.
Okay,
Sorry.
just thought I'd offer. Anyhow, don't
But-
listen to the sweet talking of developers who come in, do what they want to do, take their money and say goodbye, and don't worry about what happens to you 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Be very careful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nancy.
Nancy.
Item number 6, discuss and consider the minutes of regularly scheduled meeting of the Village Board of December 21st, 2015.
Motion to table.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and second to table. There was a note in the packet that that was a request. So motion second to table. Any discussion? On hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. No presentations to the board, Deb?
Nope.
Okay. Number 8, unfinished business. Discuss and consider amendment to temporarily extend agreement for services between the Village of Cottage Grove and Briar Patch Youth Services.
With the board's permission, I'd like to see item 8B taken up at this point. If final action's not taken on item 8B, then we could take action on 8A.
Okay. And 8B is to
For
consider
the actual agreement for services.
Okay, discuss and consider proposed agreements or services between the Village of Cottage Grove and Briar Patch Youth Services for 2016, including revisions to the same.
Okay, I forwarded a draft of the agreement for services to you over the weekend with a explanatory memo. Then I received an email from Judge Heppinger, which suggested a change to section or Article 2, A, the second paragraph, and change the language so that it would say no case referral will involve an individual who has attained the age of 18 who is not enrolled in high school at the time of his or her offense. And I have no issue with that language. What I'm passing around to you is simply a revised version of what you received over the weekend with this sentence added to it. It's just so you could see it in the context of the whole agreement. Then I also added a section in Article 5 that was in the draft that you received this weekend, which said commencing in 2016, consideration of funding, renewing, or amending the underlying agreement for subsequent years shall occur as part of the village budget process and shall be completed prior to adoption of the final village budget. So we're not in the same situation that we've been in before. I received an email from Judge Heppinger indicating that with this change, he had no objection. Jay Kiefer from Briar Patch sent me an email that said he had no concerns. Chief, I grabbed you just as you were walking in, and I think you were okay with the language, and if not, if you could let me know otherwise.
No, that's fine.
All right. So what you have before you then is a proposed final agreement for services with Briar Patch.
Motion to approve.
Motion and second to approve the amendment and new agreement with Briarpatch Youth Services for 2016. Any further discussion? On hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Now you can just dispense with item 8, 8A.
Okay. So item 8C then, discuss and consider amendment to current village ordinance 12-1, parent H, allowing village board to make appointments if village president position is vacant.
Okay, as part of my research on this issue, we found several ordinances that had not made their way into our published ordinance. And so not only does this deal with a particular issue, but it also deals with some language that had been approved by the board in the past, but hadn't made its way into the online version of the ordinances. What I did was I created a new section 12.1H, and basically what this says is that the village president appoints the trustee and citizen members for standing, special, or ad hoc village board, committee, or commission, except as otherwise provided herein. So that's really no change to the way things currently are. Then on page 2, I added language where the village president shall, subject to confirmation by the village board, have the authority to appoint any board member to serve as an alternate member of any joint intermunicipal committee, commission, or board. This is what was passed in 2013, I believe. And so what I'm suggesting is that we change that language so that it's the village president can appoint an alternate member of any standing, special, or ad hoc committee, commission, or board, not just the joint ones. Then the next is that in the event the position of village president is vacant as defined by the statutes for a period of more than 30 days, the village board may appoint a trustee to serve as an alternate member of any standing, special, or ad hoc board or committee. And then in terms of the appointment process, what I'm suggesting, kind of picking up on some comments that have been made before, and that is that when an appointment is being put forward by someone on the board or the village president, that they do it in writing, it's on the agenda, and that you receive back any background information that you feel that you would like to see. Then in 12-1I, I dealt with filling vacancies. This actually came about a while back, where it was talking about if the village, this one deals with if the position of village president is vacant, a village trustee shall have the right to nominate any trustee or citizen for a vacant position on a standing, special, or ad hoc board, committee, or commission. So it gives the board the opportunity to fill those positions, which I know was a concern. Number 2 on page 3 was adopted in 2008 because some appointments hadn't been made, and by the then president, and the board wanted the opportunity to make appointments if that was the case. And again, any nomination that's made per this section would be done in writing with the nominee's name placed on the agenda for consideration at an upcoming board meeting, and the board can determine what background information, if any, shall be provided in support of the nomination. That way you're not locked into a specific way of doing it. So those are the revisions that I'm proposing based on our discussion at the last meeting.
Motion to approve the amendment to current village ordinance 12-1H, allowing village board to make appointments if village president position is vacant.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve village ordinance 12-1H, allowing village board to make appointments if village president position is vacant.
I would just ask to amend that to just say that it would, because it's a little bit broader than that, I would just say that that you're amending section 12-1 to add a new section H dealing with appointments, and a new section I dealing with vacancies.
That's fine.
Okay.
Second?
That's fine.
Okay. With the amendments, or with the revision as requested by village attorney, is there any further discussion? On hearing none.
I guess,
Okay.
I have a question. It's not specific to this, but it seems recurring that we have ordinances that aren't published.
Well,
so that it's.
I think
I mean, that's where I go to do my homework, and I feel like
Yeah.
now I don't have all my tools.
Um,
Tool chest sometimes.
Well, we want to make sure that, yeah, I agree that we'd like the tool chest to be as full as possible. I think that we have caught most of them. That being said, probably next time you'll ask me something.
There's another
I'll-
one.
I'll say, oh. But all I can say is that we have tried to track those. And honestly, Alex, right now, I think that it would have to wait until someone was added to the office where they could actually literally go back,
Yeah.
you know.
Line by line. I mean, literally, you have to do line by line.
Yeah,
If there's
through
no
the-
solution, I apologize. I don't have one. It's always good to mention something and then also have a solution, and I don't have one. But it's just. I guess
And just to clarify, these
comment.
are ordinances that have been passed, that have been also passed on to the codification company, and they're just not,
Well, where's-
they accept them, and then
so we shouldn't pay.
they just haven't been updated for whatever reason.
It needs to go, we need to, that's a project that needs to go back to
Yeah.
like 2000 and just make sure they're all in there.
Right.
But you realize if they're not in there and they need to go in there, then, and they hadn't been sent before, so in other words, it was on our end, we're gonna have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Has that been
Well, we
the
shouldn't
same
pay for it
company
then.
since-
We pay for it now. I mean,
Well, as long as,
yeah.
no, if we paid for it then that's not our issue.
Right.
That's their issue, but if
Yeah,
we
it's been the
didn't,
same one.
that's gonna add up, but
I was just asking if that was the same company since 2000 or so.
I believe we've been the same company how
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, I share your feeling, Alex, because I was particularly pleased after telling the board there was no possible way to nominate an alternate member and then finding some old ordinance that said there was. So at any rate, hopefully we've caught most of them, and I think that would be a project for, sometime in the near future.
I caught one we caught one last week too, and I was
Oh, right.
reading through their notice that it was still back from maybe even as far back as the 90s that said when the village was much smaller, that the administrator is also the treasurer. Well,
Yeah.
we moved on to clerk treasurer, and now we're actually looking for just treasurer.
Well,
So
he called me
it's
and
way
said he
behind.
wanted me to get rid of that, and
It's
I
way
said,
behind.
I'm awfully busy right now. I can't. And actually, that is another one that at least there's a draft of something that changes and deletes that from the job description. So I don't know, we were looking to see if that had ever been passed by the board, but we'll try to get those updated.
I guess the only missing guy, this is really good. The only other question is so we incorporated adding how to fill vacancies within the committees, and now we have basically this ordinance, which is going to be our guidance document on how to do that. Is there also a way to roll this into a guidance document on how to fill trustees? Because basically we run into this every time. I mentioned this before. It's almost the same process. A name gets presented, whether there's a resume or some application or there's a Q&A that we had, and then the board voted for approval. It's the same process. We're going to post it on the agenda, an opening for ad hoc committee. We're going to nominate Harvey to it. Sorry, Harvey. And Harvey's been with the village for a long time, and he should be on the ad hoc committee, and then we vote for approval. It's the same idea with the trustee. Not to change this, we should continue improving this, but is there a way to add, that's what we're doing.
It's really up to the board in terms of if you want to change this. The state statute gives you some options, and if you want to narrow those options and say in the event that the board decides to appoint a trustee, this is the process that's going to be utilized. You certainly could do that. Honestly, over the course of time, just to give you a quick, in probably 1987 or 88, the village president was named Tom Baxter, and he came to a meeting and he said, well, the funeral home that I work for has been bought out. Now I'm going to be working different hours and I can't be village president anymore. And the board goes, okay, well then we nominate Rhonda Costa to be village president, and she became village president. And it was just no fuss, no muss, it was just done. Then in 2005, Scott Norton submitted a resignation, and there was quite a bit of fuss and muss.
That was after 2005.
2009.
2009, yeah, that's right, yep, I'm sorry. 2009, and there was, a big uproar about whether the board was going to appoint the new president or there was going to be an election. And then this last time, I thought it went remarkably smoothly. So it's really up to you as to whether you want to put that in ordinance form or if you want to maintain some flexibility.
And as chair of the ordinance, I mean, the board can, if the board chooses, the board could refer it to ordinance for discussion, but that's not part of this particular thing, so it'd have to be a different. So. Any other discussion specifically on this particular village ordinance 12-1H? On hearing none, all in favor of approval of the revisions to village ordinance 12-1H and I, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, it would be in reference to the ordinance we just approved. Discuss and consider potential trustee and citizen appointments to vacant positions on various village boards, committees, and commissions. Were any presented to you, Deb?
No.
Or Matt?
No.
Okay. So that might have to be an item for next, unless, based on the ordinance, we would have to wait until they were on the agenda, correctly?
Right. Yeah, and the reason for that is that over the course of time, there have been times when you've been given in May just this whole raft of new appointments. And then sometimes they trickle in. And I just thought, well, let's have the procedure where it's on the agenda and we ask the person to, give a resume or just some background information, whatever the board might choose to do. So that's why we put that on here, just to remind you that if there were some people you wanted to nominate, then we'd do it in writing and have them on the agenda for the next time.
Should we table that then till the next meeting, or just
Yeah,
just
that'd
pause?
be fine. I just table it.
Motion to table till the next trustee meeting, 9A.
I'll second. So motion second to table item 9A, potential trustee and citizen appointments to various village boards and commissions. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10, reports from village boards, commissions, and committees. 10A, Ad hoc Architectural Review Committee. Discuss and consider request for approval of site plan from Atlantis Valley Foods located on Lot 1 of the Cottage Grove Commerce Park, northwest corner of Commerce Parkway and Herb Road.
I'll start, Harvey, Bob and Mike, if you wouldn't mind sitting up at the table. So this site plan from Atlantis Valley Foods has been reviewed by both Plan Commission and Architectural Review and recommended approval from both. I'll start at Architectural Review, and then Aaron will cover Plan Commission. Essentially, the main part of the approval that Architectural Review approves is, does this project meet the covenants of the park? And they did deem it so. The motion from the committee was to approve Atlantis Valley Foods building as meeting covenants based on architectural metal as submitted. As a further recommendation to the board, and this is where it's just up for consideration. This was above and beyond what the scope of their approval is, but they wanted the board to also look at what they deemed as a preference for masonry wainscoting on the east and south elevations from essentially the bottom of the windows of the office area, from the floor to the bottoms of the windows, and then also for evergreen trees screening on the south side of the building to block the overhead doors, with the plantings beginning from the parking area to the west. And with that also, Atlantis Valley Foods will submit the costs for those two options, which came out to, the masonry costs was about $11,000, and the additional tree screening was about $2,500. And with that, Aaron can discuss the aspects of the plan approval, and then we'll, if we missed anything, we'll let Mike and Bob cover that.
Sure. The village action report that's in your packet covers the Plan Commission meeting and their approval with all of their conditions. There were 5 planning and 26 engineering conditions. I don't think we need to go through all of them. Most of them are procedural issues or engineering details. If you do have questions, Mike's here and you can ask me about any of them. I think the main one that might require a little bit of discussion is the use of the metal panels. The Commerce Park covenants, which cover this project because it's in the Commerce Park, do not allow a traditional metal panel, which is what you see on warehouses, the corrugated or ribbed metal, but it does allow architectural metal panels. So the first question, at both of these meetings, we had to determine, is this an architectural metal panel? And my recommendation that it is. It's different than the typical warehouse panel. It's flat, it's textured, all the fasteners are hidden on the interior. And the Plan Commission and ARC both went along with that. There's also an element in the zoning ordinance that requires buildings in the planned industrial area to have 1/3 of their facade be masonry on the front of the building. But the zoning ordinance does allow the Plan Commission and then ultimately the board to waive that requirement if there's additional landscaping provided. And that was the recommendation from the Plan Commission. Though they did ask for some additional photos and details to be shown to the ARC, which was done last week. As Matt mentioned, the ARC had a little bit of a different take. They prefer to see the masonry and maybe a little less of the screening. I think you're within your rights to ask for either one based on the zoning ordinance. It's really an issue of aesthetic preference at this point. I guess the way I would kind of think about it, the building as submitted without the masonry on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 3. I mean, no offense, I'm sure you've designed many great buildings, but I don't think that was ever really the intention with this one. I think adding the masonry maybe makes it a 3.5 or a 4. So really the question is, do you want a 3 that's completely screened so you can't really see it, or do you want a 3.5 or 4 that you can partially see it? My recommendation from the initial staff report was to have the landscaping to screen it and not worry about the masonry. But it's ultimately up to you guys to make a decision. But whatever you decide, we may have to alter condition number 2 from the action report. And Mike and Bob are here with.
Well, if I might insert a few comments. And as introduction, I'm Mike Swanson, and I've come before you before, but as reintroduction, I'm the owner of Atlantis Valley Foods with the plan in front of you to build a commercial building in the Commerce Park. Bob Feller is here as a architect representative of Iconica contractors who are at present contracted to build this building for us. Some additional comments that I would make, in addition to what Matt and Aaron have mentioned, is the ARC, at least a couple of the ARC individuals did go and see a building that Bob and his company built out in Middleton with the decorative metal panels, and came back relatively impressed, if I'm characterizing their impression correctly. Came back impressed with the way it looked versus what I think their initial impression was without seeing them. So I guess I think that's an important point. Our preference, obviously, in the light of this is, we're we'd be happy to add some of the landscaping and so forth in return for not having to invest further in the brick and mortar as far as the masonry. And I say that from the standpoint that project is already beyond budget for us. It's grown a little bit. It's bigger than what I'd originally spoken to you about when I was here last time. But the company has grown and the needs have grown, so that's the resulting piece. In addition to that, I would also make the comment that relative to the development agreement and the TIF expected underlying investment in the improvements, we have certainly gone a good bit beyond that underlying investment. So, from an improvement value, how that turns into an appraised value, I don't know in the end, but we've certainly exceeded that by a pretty good shot as far as the building and construction as it is. So, again, our preference in light of some of the requests that have gone a little bit beyond, the covenants, as you've mentioned, Aaron, our preference would be to add some landscaping without adding the masonry.
So essentially, objectively, when the committee reviewed it, it meets covenants, and then subjectively, by their preferences, they of course prefer to see some masonry, and then I asked Bob and Mike to put together the cost for that so you guys could see, because on its face you may be like, well, this, of course, yeah, we want some masonry, but what is the cost of that? I mean, that additional approval that doesn't say it has to be that way adds $11,000 to their project. So we just wanted you guys to all be aware of that.
And again, we are a growing company. I'm trying to invest as much as possible in the growth of the business rather than, extending our investment in bricks and mortar. So it's kind of the budgetary analysis from my standpoint as a business owner.
Building finishes aside, it's a very good company for the park. The timing of the trucks coming in and out are kind of off cycle with the traffic from the rest of the businesses, so it's a good fit that way.
And I'm happy to field any questions relative to the business. I know I had mentioned that to you before when we got together, but we're not a retail style business, so we don't have customers coming and going. We're really a logistics distribution based business. And that's a group of people going out early in the morning and returning in the afternoon. Other than that, suppliers with trucks bringing in products throughout the day.
Lee, would it also be appropriate for Mike Maloney, our engineer, to weigh in?
Sure, if he has something to say.
Maybe, I'm just trying to think how best to,
Yeah.
you mind switching spots, Bob, with Mike, so he gets access to the,
Yeah, I didn't pass them off.
Do we know how this metal stands the test of time?
Yeah, that's the other question.
Bob, you mind speaking to
Durability of
durability of the metal?
The product that you saw was actually just recently constructed, but we've been assured that it holds up to the same durability as any other exterior metal product. Does have the ability for recoating, repainting, if colors need to be chosen or if it needs to be touched up for durability.
Is it like a powder-coated product? Or? Okay. That's
Yeah, I actually have a
very
sample if you'd like me to pass it around.
Is this the color you're planning on?
This is the color. So it's actually 16 inches wide and it comes in lengths up to 24 feet. We're proposing that it would be run vertically. Send these elevations around.
Tyler, are you one of the ones that took the field trip?
I didn't take the field trip, no, but I saw it at planning.
So I'm setting the Commerce and Herb Road elevations around. Essentially, both of those elevations are completely, this product is changing the color from green, or from the beige. And then 25% of the elevation on the opposite sides would still be this product as well.
So it would run like this, not like this?
Correct. Yeah. It's So each panel is attached to the wall, the next panel is slotted into it, hiding the fasteners of the first one, you attach the second one.
The seam between is very narrow.
Right, somewhere between a 16th and an eighth of an inch, for as tight as possible. So it does give a real appearance of stucco or ephes.
So Matt, so the discussion is, do we like that or ask for masonry? Is that what you're looking for the board for? Or ad hoc approved, the architectural review committee approved it. Now it's in front of us to
Right.
also approve.
The site plan as a whole and these aspects of the building, I mean, those materials will be the bulk of the building. The only, I guess, aesthetic thing up for debate is either additional landscaping or masonry from ground level to the windows on the office portions of the elevation.
And all the rest of the conditions in the action report, they were fine with fulfilling those. It was really the masonry was the question that's kind of out there still.
I really don't see anything wrong with that material that you've given to us, as long as, you know, if it does chip, as long as it's prepared.
So you would see masonry from the bottom, you know, instead of the green below there, that would be masonry with that option. And that's about an $11,000 cost.
I just think that's
Yeah.
silly.
Not way back there.
I'm fine with the landscaping in lieu of that. That's a good product.
So Matt, is it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You need a motion?
No, thank you. A motion to approve the metal or a motion to approve the siding? What are you looking for?
It's a site plan.
Well, it would just be a motion to approve the site plan with conditions, and then you would specify to, you know,
That the metal's-
masonry or without masonry.
Yeah.
Maybe before we make any
Yeah.
motions, since we yanked Mike out of his chair, we give him a chance to
That's right.
weigh in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really upset. I would like you to like-
We had a number of conditions that are 80%, you know, things for the engineer to follow up with on their plans, which we believe they will. And so as long as our comments are included, they were included in the Planning Commission packet as well. What the front along Commerce Parkway will have sidewalk, and they've agreed to that. Planning Commission did defer the sidewalk going up Herb Road along the side of the building. As I came in to the last board meeting to discuss, we would be completing Herb Road as part of TIF 5. And so the sidewalk going along there would just wait, deferred until the road would extend and have a need for sidewalk going somewhere to future businesses to the north. The park currently ends at Atlantis Valley Foods, and a lot that would be to the east of it. Putting Herb Road in, and this business will certainly make that lot more, have curb appeal, because the road will be completed there for that one as well. The stormwater is taken care of on the site. They'll be putting an infiltration basin to the north in what's kind of the odder shape of this lot. But the lot does provide, if their business is growing, a lot of room to grow to the north as well. So it's kind of one of the advantages to the lot they chose, and it fits in well with the topographic elements out there. It's a flatter lot, and it allows for growth. Traffic-wise, the business indicated there's not going to be parking and that sort of thing along the street, though we allow it. And the traffic, again, generated as anticipated in the design of the roads. So.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay.
Yes. One question that I'm kind of thinking about right now as I'm looking at this is, how does the screening affect the view from the window? And do you see that to be a concern? The landscaping?
You're worried about the view from the window from inside the building?
Yeah, it's office space, and then you're putting trees in front of
I'm
windows.
thinking the landscaping would be set back closer to the street, so it's not.
Okay,
right.
I was just trying to get clarification on that, so.
That's a good question. There's natural daylight
Yeah.
May have some upset workers.
And me too. Like the daylight.
Sure. Then there would be adequate, vision triangles at the driveway entrance as well for people, if anyone would be in the future on the sidewalk, so.
Are you good, Mike?
You good?
Motion to approve the recommendation from planning committee with the noted conditions and acceptance of the metal option with landscape.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the site plan for Atlantis Valley Foods with the conditions noted in the village action reports from planning and engineering, and with the metal option for the bottom part. Yeah.
Below the windows.
Below
That's
the windows.
basically what the condition says already, so there really doesn't need to be a change.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The developer agreement is largely done. I've been in contact with Mr. Swanson's attorney, and there were just a couple of language issues. What happens then is that the approvals at the Plan Commission, the Architectural Review Committee, and now at the board will be made a part of the agreement by being appended to it, so that if there's ever any question on this agreement or any other agreement, you've got all those exhibits there. So this will become part of the record for that particular site.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Item 10B, Community Development Authority. I'm not sure why that was still on here, because we don't meet until next Monday. 10C, Joint Fire.
Don't meet until February.
Don't.
Have you met
Oh,
yet?
I do have a question on joint fire, John.
Okay.
If you can. Last week, there was a, who else is on joint fire with you? Jack?
Jack,
And,
and then Chris from
oh,
the town.
okay. Well, anyway, it came up that there was an agreement done in 1998, and the agreement involved the building of the fire. It was going to be just a fire station. Then it expanded to the emergency services building. And in there's one paragraph that deals with the maintenance of the exterior of the building. The village has the responsibility from October 1st until the following September to mow the grass and plow the driveways. And this has worked fine for years. So the agreement's never been touched, and I wouldn't even hazard to ask that it get looked at, but just so people know that that's how the snow plowing gets done and the mowing gets done, is that the town and the village take turns at it, and it starts on October 1st and it ends on September 30th. So this year is our year.
So did you get a hold of
I
JJ
did.
that
There
day?
was a flurry of phone calls, but thanks to Chief Labor and a couple other people, we got it. I did chase down a snowplow though and talk.
Well, it turned out that JJ did know about the agreement and knew about the responsibility, and they just had an issue with maintenance or something with one of the trucks. So it really wasn't a problem. But just so the board knows that that's how the exterior part of the building is taken care of. And then there's a separate agreement that we did 2 years ago that creates a repair fund for things like the parking lot and then the outside of the building and that type of thing.
I was aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Item 10D, Law Enforcement Committee.
We'll be meeting on Tuesday, January 26th.
We had the one at the end of the month.
Yes, we had the one after the last village board meeting.
Yeah.
And we pretty much discussed sort of an after action of the whole Pure Court thing, and Chief gave us the reports for the month.
Was that the meeting you also approved some end-of-year purchases within budget?
Yep, there was two different purchases. One was spending, I believe, up to $8,000 from the building fund, which there's certainly money there for it, for the additional items that were needed, so.
Yeah.
It's good. I think the building will be in good shape when we get these items taken care of.
Okay, anything else? Okay, 10E, public relations.
Last time we met was December 16th, recommended, I think I told this last time, recommended 2 of the vendors for updating our website. I think, Matt, you're probably working on getting them scheduled for our next meeting, is what the plan was.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It didn't
No, a
get off.
couple of these committees we could have been eliminated from this agenda, so that's okay.
It's all right.
Okay, reports from village officers. Kyle?
No report.
Jack?
No report.
Alex?
Happy New Year, no report.
Jennifer?
No report.
Okay, John?
No report.
I don't have any report. Attorney Lee Boucher?
No report?
Administrator Matt Giese?
The carpeting for this room will be ordered within a week or two, and hopefully can be installed. It'll probably depend a little bit on the meeting schedule, but it'll be put in as quickly as possible. And Deb and I are in the process of filling the temporary vacancy in our office due to a retirement. So hopefully that'll be taken care of shortly, potentially as soon as next week. And then that'll be about 3 months, and we will post the position and go through the more thorough process of filling the permanent position, which will be a clerk position.
Okay,
That's it.
Director of Planning and Development, Aaron Ruth?
I can confirm that the new carpeting will not require plan commission approval.
Okay. Any other village staff or consultants? All right. Number 12, communications and miscellaneous business. Consider approval of vouchers.
Motion to approve vouchers as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the vouchers as presented. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
On the first page, there is a $5,689 for the Ford Explorer. Was any of that covered under insurance?
Everything except for $500. But the insurance check gets put into revenue. Insurance recoveries.
It didn't go
The
direct to them?
expense, no.
Okay, so we
Well,
paid it, they're
goes to-
reimbursing you.
It goes into the general fund, which is where the expense comes out of, but the expense comes out of an expense line, and the check from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
insurance company goes into a revenue line.
Okay, that makes sense, so the check, okay, makes sense.
Okay. Anything else, Alex?
That's all I had.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve vouchers as presented. Any further discussion? On hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any correspondence, Deb or Matt?
Nope.
No, but Harvey, if I can ask to go back, I did think of one more thing for my
Sure.
report. And that's, we've had some troubles with some essentially cancellations, or people have just quit on us with crossing guards.
Hmm.
That happened today.
Of course.
Two of them. And, they're difficult positions to fill because
I
it's
heard
so
that.
part-time.
I heard the newest trustees take those jobs.
Well, we've discussed a couple things. I mean, if it continues to be an issue,
Yeah.
we'll certainly let the schools know. So, we may be down from time to time. The police will help us out. Maybe even department head staff will have to rotate, maybe take a day here and there. But, we'll do our best with it. But it's just,
Or a trustee.
if you happen to get complaints that a post isn't filled, there's a couple intersections that we have 2, so they may have to scramble sometimes and only have 1. But
What are the time slots?
In the morning, mostly it's 7:35 to 8:05, 8:10, 8:15, somewhere around there. in the afternoon.
Like 2:30 or something.
Yeah, 2:40 to
Well,
3,
Cottage
they're
Grove's
45, they're half-hour-ish shifts.
Like 2:40 to 3:10 or something.
Yeah, something
I
like
mean,
that.
most are diligent, but, you know, there isn't a ton of accountability in that part-time position where someone just drops it and decides to quit without any notice. There's nothing we can really do,
Right.
so.
In the process, there's a little bit of a training that you have to do.
Yeah,
that type of
but
stuff, and it's just
If anybody is
puts in
interested, please contact, or if you know anybody, reach out. The training is basically just going through one shift with a
It's a
current
grueling
guard.
training process, and it's a very competitive hiring.
So we're in a pinch right now, then, obviously.
Yeah, we're down
We have two people left.
With the hire of the temporary deputy clerk treasurer position, you know, it's not ideal, but, you know, we could go one, you know, we're operating temporarily a little short as it is. We could have that person for, you know, the hour or so, head out there for at least one of the shifts. That's been discussed. But anyway, just information.
That'd be great.
I have a side question. It's Christmas tree pickups 15th, is that right?
It's this week and next week,
Okay.
As in today.
as in today.
As in
Today and tomorrow.
Christmas is over.
Well, it says the weeks of January 4th and January 11th.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's all week,
Yeah.
as their time allows.
Oh,
So just throw it out there, or put it out.
hope for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
it'll
we'll
be
get plowed in.
picked up in the next 2
So
weeks.
Christmas tree pickup is this week and next week.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone wants to help out the department and let everyone consolidate onto one yard, and then they can make only like a couple stops.
Stump trees and cows, yeah.
Yeah.
Future agenda items,
The trustee appointment thing?
trustee appointments.
We have an update on the parking on N, the no parking on N that Chief.
Okay. Website design, presentation / interviews. The plan would be about, what was discussed at the committee was about 10 minutes for a presentation, and then another 5 to 10 minutes of questions, whatever the board would want to ask. And then it would be the similar, whatever you ask the first company, you ask the second company the same questions, so.
Did you say parking on Highway N?
For the elementary school.
Elementary school, yeah.
The study or test or whatever?
Okay. Item 13, closed session. The Village of Cottage Grove will enter in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent E, deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public property, investing in public funds, conducting either specified business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Negotiate terms for potential development in TID number 6 by Horizon Development, Inc. It's a roll call vote. I mean, I need a second. And a roll call vote.
Kyle Broom?
Aye.
Jack Henrik?
Aye.
Alex Justician?
Aye.
Jennifer, Harvey Potter?
Aye.
John Williams?
Aye.
We are.